I'm Stacy Grinsfelder.
And I'm Daniel Cantor.
And you're listening to True Tales from Old Houses.
The mini-sode.
Hey, Daniel, how you doing today?
Hello, good morning. I'm here, present, awake. I slept right through my alarm this morning.
I guess we are glad you're here.
Have you ever done that? Like, that alarm goes for a long time before it turns itself off.
Honestly, I pop right awake in the morning, as you well know that about me.
Of course you do.
Before we launch into today's episode, I do want to say a special thank you to our sponsors, Sutherland Wells and Noonan Heritage Craftworks.
Yes, thank you. We love you guys.
Sounds like you really have needed your rest.
I have.
Our trip to Arizona must have taken a lot out of you.
It did. And then I've been kind of on a tear through the house, which we'll talk more about at some point. But I decided on Thursday to have a yard sale like the next day or the day after. And then I sort of quickly was like, let's give ourselves a week. This is a bad idea.
Yeah.
So it's on next week, yard sale.
Ooh, yard sale.
And I have just been working top to bottom, started in the attic. And whew.
Have you ever had a yard sale before?
I have. I've never had a yard sale at this house, actually. So with my ex at his house, I think we had one or two. And then my friend lives out in Woodstock, and we've had one every summer.
Okay.
We've skipped a summer here and there for sure. But it's always fun. But it's like, I just bring whatever kind of fits in the car. So it's never all the stuff I have set aside. And like,
right.
I just kind of hit a point where I'm like, we're either having a yard sale now or all of this stuff needs to be donated because it's just taking up space and this is really stupid.
Do you find that the time you spend getting ready for this actually pays off? I'm just curious because it's been yes and no for me at times.
Okay, so I will say I definitely remember a yard sale with my ex, and I don't mind saying I made like over $2,000.
Whoa.
So like, yeah, and not selling it, just a lot of little stuff and now that I have a actual shop space where we're selling vintage and antique goods at Ball & Claw Antiques, which I've just elegantly promoted into my statement.
Link will be in the show notes. Go ahead.
Link in the show notes everywhere. Now I think it's a little bit easier for me to discern like what's going to go in the shop and what's just never going to go in the shop.
Yeah, good point.
And that's the yard sale stuff. So it's not like it's all crap. It's not like it's all garbage. It's just...
I think we can say crap on this podcast. Or are you just trying not to identify your stuff as crap?
No, I don't have a problem with that. I have a distant memory of a content warning being listed due to the use of the word CRAP.
Really?
At some point long in the past.
Oh, that's hilarious. I do not remember that.
It's like, oh God, she wants me to host this thing.
Okay. I did not expect to have this conversation. I do not remember that. I can tell you that my mother did not allow the word crap in our house. So I'm wondering if I said it more tongue in cheek. And maybe if I didn't, maybe that's what I was thinking. I don't really know. But
well, I loved it when it happened.
Thanks for the call out. You must be thinking that I am just a total, what's the word for it? Somebody who doesn't like swear or I don't know.
Mormon.
Mormon. Yeah, I'm not that either. Well.
So anyway, that's kind of what I've just been doing. Like, I'll be honest, I've been just a little like floating around and like, I'll figure it all out. But in the past like few months, I don't know, we have the shop stuff going on. I'm doing this podcast, trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we're all in the same boat.
I have my 4 acres of desert. Like,
yes.
Things are just really weird. Anyway, how's your spring panning out? So you just got back from WPA, not the Works Progress Administration.
The what?
The Works Progress Administration.
No.
The other WPA.
The other WPA, the Window Preservation Alliance, the only one that is important to me. I don't know. The other one maybe should be, but at this point.
It's a FDR thing. Don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah. We're good then. Okay. And I do have a couple of t-shirts, or not a couple. I have a handful of t-shirts left over. I think size small, large, maybe extra large. These are True Tales from Old Houses t-shirts. I'm going to throw them in a blog post on the True Tales from Old Houses website. So if you want to pick one up, go for it. The store link that's in our header on that website actually leads to the whole preservation-themed merch store. And that's separate. I just kind of want to get rid of a handful of these t-shirts that I took with me. So check it out. If you missed our merch run, they'll be right there.
Well, they should be easy to get rid of because I have been wearing mine around and my goodness, I love it. Mm-hmm. They're so cute and everything's like so soft. I washed my hoodie. It didn't shrink.
That's great. Yeah, I just gave those to you in Arizona. I've had them at my house with the merch run ended in November, and then I had them at my house and just brought them to you in Arizona. So it was like Christmas in Arizona.
Yeah. And true to form, I'll admit, I have already gotten a little bit of paint on the hoodie. I was upset, and then I realized, like, wow, it's incredibly on brand.
Right.
Exactly.
Last episode, you were asking me about the Window Preservation Alliance annual conference, and I said, I'll talk about it on the minisode. So just real briefly, I guess. The Window Preservation Alliance is 10 years old, which I only recently found out. So I think that's kind of a big milestone. It was started as mainly a business support organization for window preservation professionals. And then there was a separate organization called the Window Preservation Standards Collaborative, WPSC. And that was more about like the hands-on side, how to actually do the work. And we have merged. So now I'm a board member on the WPA. And this year we merged, which is great because the two organizations, how many window preservation organizations does anyone need? So the two of us are working together, which is great. So there's a business component. There is a hands-on component. And anyway.
How very cool.
Yeah. True Tales from Old Houses. We had a sponsor table. I don't know if I told you I was going to do that before I did, but we were there.
But I loved it. I love that you did it.
I'm not a good producer sometimes, am I? I should definitely be telling you these things, but I thought it was kind of funny.
The fact that the things are actually getting done is the entire, I don't need to know.
You don't need to know.
It's none of my business.
Just tell you when to show up so that you can set 2 alarms instead of 1.
Yeah. And then push the recording back.
Right. Well, I was sandwiched. Our table was sandwiched. I thought this was pretty funny. Between Interglass and Indo, 2 interior storm window options. And I jokingly thought to myself in my head that, I was there to like keep them from fighting.
You're the bouncer of the deep WPA.
Yeah.
Little Stacy.
Little Stacy in between. And they were great, though. Both of them were really nice. So Kimber's from Interglass, Stuart was from Indo. And it's interesting. I've referenced those in the book that I wrote with Scott, which is just the time when I dropped the title again. The Case for Historic Windows, the Truth About Energy Efficiency in Old Windows.
Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah. Smooth there. And I've mentioned them before in that book. They were based on Scott's research, but I hadn't actually, and he's seen this, by the way, I should clarify, he's seen both of these many times, but I had only seen Indos in person. I had never seen Interglass. The construction of both products is totally different, but they do accomplish similar goals.
So you had the booth. You presented on the book, right?
I did. I presented with Scott on the book. I was also on a panel where we asked business questions that related to mental health and just sort of setting boundaries and all that. That ended up being an incredible conversation. A lot of people had some real valuable questions to ask about that. And I think it's something that small businesses struggle with a lot. When you have to be everything, it can be really stressful after a while. And then, of course, there are some window preservation companies that are big businesses and they struggle with different things altogether. Yeah, so it was fun to present. I got to see Chris from My Old House Fix. He is one of our Old House Hub sponsors the big episodes. And so it was really fun to see him again. Anyway, we got to catch up. I ate a lot of candy off of his table. I probably owe him. I owe him a bag of candy.
I mean, I feel like it's there for that purpose. I think it's fine.
I also met someone who is currently working through the entire show, True Tales from Old Houses, from the beginning.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
What's their name?
Well, I was going to say, I'm not sure when she's going to get to this episode, but if she does, I want to say, hi, Terry.
Hi, Terry.
We're so glad that you found the show.
In 2027, you'll hear this and know that we're still thinking of you.
Yeah, she's definitely savoring all the episodes, rather than binging. So I don't really know when she's going to reach this point, but we'll still be here when she does.
Thanks, Terry. She probably also hasn't reached me yet, so this is meaningless.
Honestly, I don't think she has reached the season yet where you have joined in. So she'll get there.
It's a long back catalog,
It'll be a nice surprise waiting for her.
Perfect.
Someone else I met was Mikkel Browns from Browns & Co. They're a linseed oil paint company. I enjoyed meeting him a lot. And we haven't had anyone on the show since Natalie from Earth and Flax. And that was episode 51 in 2021. So I think we'll have Mikkel on at some point to talk about linseed. I think we should do another show about it.
That would be great, because that's something I really, truly like. I've heard everything from linseed will stick to anything, paint it over, whatever, to it absolutely has to be bare wood and no exceptions. So
I know.
I would love to hear from a person who really knows.
Yes, a lot has happened since that episode in 2021 with Natalie. Nothing's changed with Natalie. I'm just saying a lot of information has been swirling about linseed oil paint since then. So I think it'll be great. We'll have him on the show.
Awesome.
Yeah. So after the WPA, I have another topic today. Can you handle it? I'm like talking up a blue streak today.
This episode's over. Pull the plug.
So in between Arizona and the WPA conference, I had a few days left over where I didn't want to come all the way back to New York, but I also didn't want to go to Astoria, Oregon too early. So I arranged to stay with my brother-in-law and his girlfriend in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, Portland's great. I love Portland.
I'm saying that like I didn't. I knew you did that.
You knew I went to Portland. Yes, this conversation is for everyone else. But what you did not know about my time there was that we just decided to stay on the Frank Lloyd Wright bus, so to speak, and visit the Gordon House, which is located there in the Oregon Gardens. That's a public botanical garden. Yeah.
I didn't know he built up there in the PNW.
Actually, this is kind of an interesting story. So the Life editors in 1938, the editors of Life magazine, they commissioned 8 of the country's leading architects to design affordable houses. Now, I should say, this happened in 1938, but Frank Lloyd Wright started working on something called the Usonian House in 1930, I think, or in the early 1930s. So this was before Life magazine, but the Usonian House, I guess, came out in an issue of Life magazine in 1938.
Can I admit that I definitely have heard the term Usonian House? I am positive it came up in Introduction to Architecture that I took back in 2010 or something.
Oh, baby.
Don't remember a thing.
That is okay.
So tell me, please tell me. But that's super interesting because that's sort of, it's like, 7 years before the Arts and Architecture magazine program that we talked about, I think last season, the Case Study House program. Anyway.
Yeah, we went on a Lustron home kick. We talked about Levittown, and that was the 1940s and 50s. So Usonian House was before, but it actually extended all the way through the 50s. So those two overlapped. The Usonian House was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright for the middle-class family, basically. It was kind of the same thought process behind Levittown and Lustron Home, except, of course, Frank Lloyd Wright, he did it before everyone because that's just who he was, right? Yeah. It was meant to be an affordable house for families that were earning, at that time, around $5,000 to $6,000 per year. And it was considered architecture for the people. And one thing that I thought was kind of interesting was that Usonian is actually an acronym for United States of North America. And he specified North America because, of course, America is more than one thing. North America, South America, Central America. He wanted it to be sort of uniquely United States architecture. The same thought process I think he had behind the prairie style home.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah, except that he wanted it to be more affordable because these were not grand houses. So you may wonder how this also folds in with Taliesin West, because I was really curious about how, if they overlapped, it made me think, okay, was Frank Lloyd Wright just sitting at Taliesin West designing the Gordon House? The truth is actually that Frank Lloyd Wright was in Taliesin in Wisconsin when this whole thing started, but it does span the time that he was in Taliesin West. So the Gordon House, that's where we come to the Gordon House. And that was in 1956. Conrad and Evelyn Gordon were actually visiting Taliesin West. They were on vacation. They met with Wright, and he accepted the commission to design a house for them on their farm on the south bank of the Willamette River, and that's in Oregon. So he designed this house. At that time, Wright was in his 80s, and so construction didn't actually begin until after he was already dead.
Oh, interesting. Before we move on, could you just, in brief, describe this home? Is it kind of the prairie style scaled back?
Defining features of the Usonian house. They are single-story, flat-roofed structures. They have open floor plans. They were actually the precursor to modern, open concept living that all of us have a love-hate relationship at this point. He also worked to integrate them with the landscape. There were carports instead of garages. I did not know this, but this is kind of a fun fact. I'm sure somebody will write in to tell me if it's false. I hope you will. That Wright didn't like garages. Does that sound right? Have you heard this?
Well, I think Wright did it. Oh, gosh. Wow, I'm out of my
depth. I put you on the spot, didn't I? It's okay. If you don't know, you don't know.
I think it is the case that Wright often liked to sort of obscure an entryway. And so a big overhead door that was prominently displayed on the front of a house would have been a big no, I would assume. And I'm going to say that's the reason.
Well, I did actually see that too. I think the idea was that he wanted the homeowner to experience like the adventure of figuring it out himself. And to me, it sounds annoying. Like, show me a front door that I don't have to find, like a hidden front door. What is that all about? I want to know what it is.
There's a troll waiting there and he picks on you.
A sense of adventure.
Answer me these questions 3.
And the carport thing too, like I see it. I didn't put the 2 and 2 together, but most of the Frank Lloyd Wright houses that I'm familiar with do indeed have a carport. Some have both a carport and a garage. I'm not a carport person. I don't like a good carport. I like a garage, but I don't like a garage on the front of the house. Don't show me that garage. Like, here's my garage, and then there's a little tiny house behind it. Not into that. So I kind of see it both ways.
I mean, it feels to me like a, simplified pared down porte-cochere.
Oh, here we are.
Just to tie it back to another earlier discussion.
Yeah.
But maybe that was sort of the thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think so. The same reason I don't like open shelving is the same reason I don't like carports. I need to have some place to hide my stuff. And a carport is just not going to cut it.
Makes sense.
Another defining feature of the Usonian home was the use of natural and inexpensive materials, brick, wood, concrete. Frank Lloyd Wright loved all of those things. Modular construction. It was on a grid, squares, rectangles, hexagons, that type of thing. He was all about rhythm and efficiency. He was a visionary. He didn't care how hard it was to put together. He wanted it like he wanted it, right?
Right. Can't relate.
Yeah. Something that was fairly new about the Usonian home was the use of radiant floor heating. That was kind of innovative.
They had that in the Lestrian houses too, but wasn't it like in the ceiling or something really weird? Or like in the walls because it was steel. Yeah. It would like radiate from everywhere, I think.
You know what? You're right. It was in the ceiling.
And that's why it like kind of didn't work great in cold climates because heat rises.
Yeah. Yeah. This is all coming back to me now.
So radiant heat, fascinating.
And that was really kind of it. You already touched on the hidden front door concept, which was going to be my last fun fact, but you beat me to it.
Was that sort of a later in life thing he got into? Because his son did it too, whose work I'm not super familiar with, but I know about that big house in LA.
Are you talking about doors or radiant floor heating? Which one?
Doors. Sorry, like hidden, like kind of obscuring the location of the front
I don't
door.
know the origin of that. All I know is Usonian house kind of started in the early 30s. It went all the way through the 50s with the whole affordable housing boom. Yes.
And I assume in part reaction to the Depression and just sort of the need to produce lower cost things across the board.
Exactly. So the Usonian homes in general, and then particularly the one built for the Gordons, very typical Frank Lloyd Wright. When you look at this house, you think, okay, I see it. Frank Lloyd Wright designed it. The difference is the scale. It's sort of like a mini version of the house. I have pictures of it, and I'll actually, you know what I'll do? I'm going to write a blog post. I'm going to put all my pictures from the Gordon house in that blog post on True Tales from Old Houses. And that'll kind of clarify anything that I screwed up today or anything that I missed, because it's kind of an interesting topic. You look like you had a question.
Is there, like when I think of Frank Lloyd Wright, one of the first things I always think of is all the built-in furniture and storage and stuff. Was there an emphasis on that? Because I assume that kind of stuff is part of what would make construction more expensive.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of that. There was, sort of some key focal points in the actual structure. But yeah, the focus was not there really. And it was kind of a DIY friendly. The Usonian house was DIY friendly. They really wanted the homeowner to kind of get involved in the process. It had a lot of the characteristics of his large houses, but on a much, much smaller scale. So Conrad and Evelyn lived in the Gordon house for the rest of their lives. Conrad died in 1979, and then Evelyn lived in the house until 1997. But they did not live in Oregon Gardens. This is where things get pretty interesting. True Tales from Old Houses is supported by Sutherland Wells. All of Sutherland Wells products are handcrafted in Providence, Rhode Island, with the highest quality, sustainably grown tung oil. Tung oil, which is native to China, has been used for centuries as a durable finish for wood, metal, and stone.
Now listen carefully. Unlike polyurethane, tung oil finish actually penetrates the surface of the wood, which means that it flexes and contracts as conditions change, which makes it the perfect pre-finish or protectant for everything from fine furniture to window sash and sills.
I've used Botanical, Millie's, Slicky Wicky, Murdoch's. Most recently, you used which product, Daniel?
Well, Stacy, I used the exterior polymerized tung oil in medium luster for the flooring of my new front porch, and it is gorgeous.
Whatever you're working on right now, Sutherland Wells has an entire product line. So if you need something for siding, hardwood floors, furniture restoration, cutting boards, they've got you covered.
To learn more about the complete product line, visit Sutherland Wells, that's Wells, sutherlandwells.com. And to save 10% on your first order, use the coupon code TRUETALES.
True Tales from Old Houses is also supported by Noonan Heritage Craftworks. You may know Joseph Parenti from Instagram for his work with historic exteriors in the Pittsburgh area. He's now extending his offerings to homeowners across the United States with Noonan Heritage Craftworks.
We all know that finding the right help to restore and maintain your old house can be a huge challenge. Where do you start? What materials and methods should you use? Who can you trust? Joseph is here to help you.
You can schedule a phone call, a video conference, or email consultation with Joseph to talk through your exterior project and to help you game plan. So whether you need to prepare a scope of work, or you need a second set of eyes to help compare estimates, or just figuring out the right questions to ask vendors, Joseph can provide unbiased guidance to help you steer clear of pitfalls and ensure success.
To learn more about how Noonan Heritage Craftworks can work with you, visit our special landing page at Noonan Craftworks. That's Noonan craftworks.com/truetales.
So as I mentioned before, the Gordon house itself was not in the Oregon Gardens, that botanical gardens. And this is what I thought was interesting. You know, I love a story like this. The descendants of the Gordons actually sold the property in 2000, and the new owners, believe it or not, had no intention of preserving the house. They were just going to plow it over, I think. Isn't that crazy? They had their own plans. And remember, this is right along the Willamette River, so I'm sure, I haven't seen the piece of property, but I'm sure it was prime real estate.
Wow. Yeah, that'll happen with prime real estate. Okay.
So the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy, which is not the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation that we
all know and love at this point.
Yes. They stepped forward and they struck an agreement with the new owners to save the house, but the condition was that it had to be moved from the site. And you know, I like a good house moving story, right?
We love a house moving story. Did they flat pack it? Did they cut it into pieces?
Yes. They did not flat pack it. The building was cut into 4 large sections and trucked to Silverton, Oregon, where it's now next to the Oregon Garden. And that's the 80-acre public botanical garden.
Wow.
Yeah.
How fascinating. And what kind of McMansion sits on that site now?
Oh, gosh, I don't even want to think about it.
How many styles of windows does that house have? Sorry.
Right. One thing I found really interesting about this house moving story, too, was that the house, when they plopped it down on the new piece of property, it retains the true north compass orientation, which meets Frank Lloyd Wright's design specifications for natural light and ventilation.
Yeah, I would think that would be one of the most important things to kind of get right.
So the main view is not the river, but it is kind of a beautiful sort of pastoral scene. It's a gorgeous area. The process to put it back together took 9 months.
Honestly, sounds fast.
Right. To us,
I don't know.
Right? 10 years later, I'd still be putting that
Right.
Frank Lloyd Wright Usonian house back together.
Now, where does this go?
Yes.
Wow. That is so cool. And then, so there's the one house that has been moved to this area. Are there other houses in the region?
I don't know. I didn't go that far. I don't know. I think it's the only one.
Yeah, I don't think of him working there.
So if you are in the Portland area, you're in Silverton, which is pretty close. I think it was maybe a 30 or 40-minute drive. You can go to Oregon Gardens, that's the botanical garden, and see the Gordon house and check it out for yourself. If you are unable to go, like I said, I took pictures. I've written a blog post, or I will have written a blog post by the time you listen to this episode. And it will be on truetales.oldhouses.com.
And just to it is a house museum that you can visit and go inside and stuff.
Yeah, I'll be real honest with you. We got there late. It was closed. So we were able to walk all around the property. And of course, since it is a Frank Lloyd Wright home with floor-to-ceiling windows, you can see everything in it. So we just looked through the windows. That's all we did.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Wow. Jealous.
I took all the time today, but we do have a few more minutes. Is there anything you want to share?
Oh, I mean,
go for it.
I don't know. I tried a new thing at the shop that was maybe like a bad idea. I'm just not sure yet. I pulled out all my vintage, like either great like studio pottery, which I have a real soft spot for, or vintage like Haker, McCoy, that kind of realm. And I went and bought all these little house plants, and I spent all day potting all these plants so you could, just go buy this beautiful piece of pottery with plants already in it, ready to go.
That sounds cute.
And nobody bought them. So
nobody bought them?
Stacy, I was like, I'm going to have a gangbusters weekend over that. Not a single one sold. So, it's hard.
Oh, no. I would have bought them. They sound really nice. For people who are not our new friend Terry, who are listening to these episodes chronologically, if they have just come in to the show, what's your shop? Just 10 words or less, or 20 words or less.
Impossible. 2 months ago, my boyfriend Brad and I started selling at my friend Maria's multi-vendor antique shop. And I have sort of stretched the limits of antique to include vintage because I love mid-century and stuff. Yeah, so just kind of really trying to figure out, it's very hard to predict what sells. It's really hard to price stuff. Just to be like honest and transparent, because who cares? Like, you'll buy something for $4 in the thrift store, and it's certainly worth more than $4, and it's certainly worth more than the 2.5 times that a retail business usually does. So you're just sort of trying to come up with what's fair and worth your time and all of that. So I don't know. It's kind of fun, but just figuring it out.
Why do you think people didn't buy houseplants? Because I saw pictures of what you did on Instagram, and I thought they were gorgeous. I mean,
thank you.
Yeah,
I really
so pretty.
thought so too.
I mean, what a great way to use pottery.
Maybe I just priced them too high.
Maybe.
That's a possibility. Maybe it's a little bit early for people. Maybe it's just not like the pieces weren't really old enough for the type of people who are shopping at the store, although there's plenty of that kind of stuff there. Maybe it was a slow weekend.
Yeah, maybe.
I wasn't there, so I don't know how many people came in and out. Who knows? I don't know. But I was like so thinking I was like really coming up with an innovative and exciting thing to sell in my store. Not a single one. But Brad made plenty of sales this weekend, so he's feeling good.
If nothing else, they make the booth look beautiful.
I thought so. Well, anyway.
So have you put anything in your booth that you bought in Arizona? We didn't have to talk about this. We touched on it, and I shared a funny little video of you picking up secondhand goods while we were in Arizona. But yeah, that was pretty funny. You took me all over on the Goodwill tour.
I know. I think on the last episode, we talked about the gift shop at Taliesin,
yes.
But we neglected to discuss the multiple like Goodwills and whatever else we went into, where I did manage to buy enough things to require the purchase of a second suitcase to get home. And no, actually, none of it has gone into the shop. Some of the pieces I bought for the shop, some I decided to keep. One I gave to my friend who just loved it. And I thought, it's okay. It was $4. You can have it.
You find out a lot about people when you thrift shop with them, like what they like and what they don't like. I'm at this stage in my life where I'm like, I don't want anything. I don't want anything extra. I can live without it, whatever. But we went to Goodwill, I guess, under the guise of looking for a suitcase for me because mine was broken.
Why we were there. I forgot.
Yeah, but I now know that it was just an ulterior motive for you to look through everything and pick things out.
100%. Because we pulled up, we were really looking for like a Ross's or a TJ Maxx or something. And we pulled up in this shopping mall where they did have that. But then there was also a massive Goodwill. And I was just like, well, Stacy, how would you feel about it? And I think you beat me to the punch. You were like, why don't we go in? And I was like, oh, I just don't know if there's time.
But I didn't know how many Goodwills we'd have to go to if I took you into one. I didn't realize that was agreeing to like completely change our day. But anyhow, You did pick out some interesting things. There was like a little cabinet, which you were on the fence. It may or may not be old, but either way, the construction was cool and it was big.
Yeah, the cabinet was the big problem. Who buys a cabinet in Arizona and then has to get it to New York? So I did. It's this little, it's so weird. And I decided it definitely is legit old. You know, sometimes there's that right on the edge of like, is this from Home Goods or did some weird man make this in his basement? It's hard to know.
Many a person has been fooled by the Home Goods versus homemade product.
Like the frequency with which I will pick up something, oh, this is cute, and it's from Pier 1. Yeah. I'll admit, it happens to all of us. So yeah, I bought this really weird little cabinet that is just so like Southwest. It's got turquoise paint and it's all bubbling and the wood is weird and it just looks totally like somebody's weird craft project. And I love this thing. And I decided, at least for now, to put it up in my house and then fill it with like weird little artifacts, like an old shutter hinge that I found in the yard and like broken pieces of china and just things that I found around in the course of renovating. I think it's going to be very cool. And it made it in one piece, 3 pieces of glass.
That is shocking to me. I thought for sure you were going to have to be repairing glass when you got that home.
Same.
And you bought like coffee mugs and...
I bought a Roadrunner mug.
Yeah. Your Roadrunner mug, which I'm actually kind of sad I didn't talk you out of that
one. It's really cute.
Yeah, I like that sort of thing. And then you bought like pottery, hand thrown, I guess you were looking for, or studio pottery from students. Yeah.
Yeah, bought some cute, cool plates, bought a couple vases. Maybe like 3 or 4 vases. It was like once the cabinet entered the picture and it was clear that I was going to need another suitcase, it was just kind of like,
why not? Well, let's just keep buying.
And then I realized because, you know, the night before and we're leaving in the next morning. And so there's no time really to do anything beyond pack. And I realized my normal strategy of wrapping all of these things in clothing wasn't really working because I just didn't bring enough clothing for this like trip in the desert. I'm as shocked as anyone that it all survived. And that like TSA didn't like, what the heck is this?
What are you doing?
I don't think my bag got searched. Anyway, yeah, but just more little things to manage in the time that I'm trying to eliminate a lot of little things from this house.
So overall, would you say that the booth has been a success? Is it accomplishing what you had hoped to do, which was to offload some of the things that you've had just languishing in all of your properties for so long?
Yes. So I will, just because I don't mind honesty, the response has not been sort of as immediate as I hoped. Like, you know, we all hope things are going to be just out of the gate. So I think like it is worth it. We are making money. We're not making kind of as much money as I wish we were making for the amount of time and effort I feel like it has taken. That being said, I think that kind of time and effort often gets sort of front-loaded with projects like this, and then it becomes more of a maintenance task. So I think we're sort of headed in that direction. We totally made over the space. We put up wallpaper. We put up some shelving. Like we really, really changed it. It was a bright yellow room before, and now it's much more kind of our style. So I think our stuff shows a lot better. So yeah, it's an interesting learning experience. To me, the biggest piece is going to be figuring out the online shipping. I just think there's a lot of people out there who want this stuff, but a limited number of people who are coming to a antique shop in Port Ewan, you know? Port Ewan's really little. Kingston's little, and then Port Ewan's really little. It is less than 10 minutes away, but it's a small town.
I bet that's going to make a lot of difference because a lot of people know you and know your taste and know what you like, and they'll think, I want to, you know, they'll want to buy something, but it has to be shipped to them.
Yeah. And I think it's hard. Like the thing I realized all I've ever done is taken pictures of things in my spaces, more or less. So putting it in an antique store, even though we've made the room beautiful and all of that, it's still, there's a lot of stuff in this one little space. And it's hard to sort of identify like, oh, that one piece is going to look great in my house. So I think the benefit of doing online too is also you can take like photos where the object is styled nicely, and then it's easier for people to picture in their own home and want to, you know, actually spend some money on it and stuff. So we'll find out. I don't know. It's a fun thing. I do enjoy it. Like I do really enjoy it. And I enjoy the part of, I've always liked sort of a small project that feels quickly satisfying. And this scratches a lot of that itch. I can rewire a lamp and then it's done and beautiful. And instead of a, 3-year renovation. So that part of it is enjoyable. It gets me in just doing a lot of different little things.
You're telling me.
Oh, you know all about it.
Yeah.
And we'll talk all about it on the next episode.
I was going to say what I wouldn't do for a little dopamine hit right about now of a completed project.
Yeah. I mean, recognizing that time is limited for everybody. If you're feeling in a little renovation rut, I always recommend just pick a really small project that you can do quickly and will just make you feel good. And it does wonders. I really believe that.
Well, that's great advice.
And that's where I'll leave you today.
Well, we are out of time, so that is a very good place to leave us. But yeah, next week we have an innkeeper from Nova Scotia, an interview that we did a while ago. I think everyone's going to really enjoy that. Thank you for listening to True Tales from Old Houses. Until next time.
See ya on the full episode.